Just wait till you see the adorable card we're going to make with these little scraps that we've cut up today. So this card we're going to make today is inspired by a quilt pattern that I saw on Pinterest. Now I'm going to show you the pattern because I've made this pattern for you and you'll be able to get this in our blog post. Okay. So it starts with a 4 by 5 inch piece of cardstock and each of these represents 1 inch. Okay. And you'll notice that this is half of a 1 inch square and this is half of a 1 inch square. I want to show you how to do that. Okay. Also, we'll have the whole recipe for this. You won't have to worry about what I've already cut there. We'll have that all written for you. But I want to show you how to get a half square. So this little guy right here is a 1 inch square. And to make a half square triangle, what we'll do is we will hold this in our hand on the diagonal. You see that? And we're going to cut from one corner to the other diagonally. And we're just making 2 little triangles out of 1 square. So you want to do that with your red, your dark green, your light green, and almost all of your black. Hold 2 full inch squares out. And then this guy is the center. He's marked in the recipe for you. He's actually 1 3/8 by 1 3/8. Okay, so now we need to do another little fancy step. I'm going to slide these out of the way for now because we don't need them until we do this. Now, this quilt in particular, I know we've done several quilts on the channel. This one needs to start from the center. Okay, and I don't normally like to do that. I usually like to start from this top and just work my way around. But because of the way this one lays out, I think we get a better layout starting in the middle. So what I want to do then is take my base cardstock. Okay, this is my 4 by 5 inch piece, and I want to score it. And I'm going to score it in the middle at 2 inches, just like that. And then I'm going to turn it and score it again at 2 inches. Now, something I want to point out to you is this is not centered. Do you see how it's kind of high and the middle would be more down here? That's what we want. We're wanting it to be a little bit higher than low. Our bow will live down here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use this guy to get us started with our quilt. Now I'm just going to place this onto my cutting mat. I'll bring it down a little bit so you guys can see it. And you can see my lines. You don't need to fold them. They're just for reference. And what we want to do with this 1 3/8 by 1 3/8 inch square is we want to put it on the diagonal, lining up each corner with our score mark. You see that? And you want to spend some time getting this one right because this is going to dictate where everything else lays. So that's what we're going to do here. Just using those score marks to line up our corners like this all the way around. We want to glue that down. So I'm going to be a little more generous with my glue than I normally am here. That will give me a little more wiggle time. And that way I can kind of slide it into place. I'm also going to pick this up where I can see it so I can place this just right. And I'll lay it down so you can see what I've done in just a moment. So I'm going to slide that into place. Let's see how we're looking. See, I'm spending some time to get these corners right because I want this to line up. There we go. That was good. So spend a few moments, and that's where we're going to start. Okay. Now, what you should do, you can just open your computer or your phone or whatever and look at this photo that we have on the website for you. But you want to reference this as you lay this out, or at least I do. And you can see here, now there's 2 colors of green, okay? There's a dark green and a light green. The dark green goes all the way around this square. And this is going to seem counterintuitive at first, okay? Because we're going to be gluing the same color square onto our piece. There's a reason for that. When I'm making my quilt cards, I don't like for them to have like a high place and a low place, meaning if I didn't put a square next to this, I'd have like a drop where the cardstock drops between it and the next pieces. And I don't want that. I want it to be nice and flat. So what I'm going to do is take that same color green and glue it right next to our square. And this is going to create another square around that one. All right. Now, why am I using the same color? I find when you're making these quilt cards, you want to use a color that's dominant in the pattern so that when you do have little spaces or little air gaps because you can't be perfect, what shows through doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. In other words, don't use white. If you use white here, anywhere you have a gap, it's going to show through. Okay, so I'm going to go around and do this on all 4 corners here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and warn you before we even get going. This won't be perfect. We will have some squaring up to do, just like you do when you make an actual quilt. There will be some trimming and some cutting to do because you just cannot cut absolutely perfect. Okay. So now we have the center done and we have these four placed down. Now we want to go, I want to go outside of my square. So I want to do these next pieces. Okay. So why don't we start up here? So next to the piece I just laid is this pale green, and it's going to be placed like this. So I'm going to use the square before it or the triangle before it to line this one up. Okay. So I'm going to glue that one down. And then on top of it, it gets another dark green. Now, at this point, all we're going to do is follow the pattern around. That's all we're going to do. So what we'll do is we'll fast forward here and let you watch me do this with some music. But really, I'm just going to check my pattern and go around and mimic it. So you can see here, it's a dark green. So I'm going to get another dark green and glue it down and follow the pattern. In your pattern, you should have one triangle of light green and one triangle of dark green left over just because of the way the numbers worked out. But look how cute this is. Now, I think it's adorable like this, but I think I'm going to do something else to it. Let's do that next. All right, so you know what I'm going to do, right? We're going to stamp it with one of our stitch sets. This one is Threadberry. That's the one we're going to use here. And I want to show you a tip, okay? Before you stamp, I challenge you to take the little backer piece and lay it over and see if black is too dark. I think black may take away from this, but then again, where it's black out here, it's not going to show. It's really just going to be in the color, so it might not be. So I'm going to stamp this one in black, but this is just a good way for you to see if you think black is too dark, if it takes away from your image, and I think we'll be okay. You could even do like a dark gray ink would work. Because I don't want it super, super dark, I'm going to use my Memento because that won't go quite as dark as my pigment ink. And I've already got my stamp loaded up onto my platform here. So I'm going to ink that up. Another thing about these stitch stamps, you don't want to over ink them. If you do, it'll make your stitches thicker than they need to be. You don't want to over ink or over press. So see, I'm just kissing that ink on. I do see a little spot that I missed that's kind of showing out right there. All right. And now we'll turn this over and place this down. Now I am going to use my impressible, but I'm not super pressing. I just want to make sure I get even pressure everywhere. And I can always stamp it again because this is my stamp wheel, but let's see how that looks. Okay, so right here, I knew I had missed something there. I'm going to do that one more time. I actually think that stitching turned out really cute. Now, the one thing I want to do I haven't done yet is square this guy up. He's pretty good. There's a little bit I need to trim off here. I'm going to do that with my long scissors here because it's very little on this side I need to trim. So that side is nice and square. But these sides here need a little bit of squaring up, and I think I'm going to use my trimmer for that because, matter of fact, I think I'm going to do this with my Tim Holtz trimmer, and I'll tell you why. Because there's no blade, because this works with friction, I think I can take this tiny sliver off even better because of our little pieces we have here. But if you don't have this trimmer, just use your regular trimmer, but sink the blade and be very easy, okay? So I'm going to run this just over the edge and hold that in place, and I'm going to slice up. And I want you to see how little we had to take off. That is why I was like, I don't know if that's going to go through my trimmer or not. And that just straightened that up perfectly. Let's do the bottom. Okay, at this point, you can decide. You can leave this just like this with just the stitching. It's super cute. Or you can choose an embossing folder. The one I'm going to use here is the eyeling hole for Sizzix, and I think it's called Tablecloth. So this one's going to be super fun. I'm going to run this to the Gemini real quick. All right, the big reveal. Look how pretty. Oh, it's so cute. When you do the embossing, it just really changes the whole look of the card. And I love how this tablecloth is in the middle on that black section. Isn't that pretty? All right, now let's put it on another piece. I'm going to glue this down to a piece of red, and I've cut this one 1/8 inch bigger on either side. And here's what I want to tell you. So this guy ends up being not your traditional A2 size. He's a 1/4 inch smaller, remember, because we did 4 by 5 instead of 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to trim my A2 base 1/4 inch shorter too. It'll be fine. So I'm going to glue this guy down. And like I said, I cut this base 1/4 inch shorter than it normally would be. So this will fit. The thing is, it won't affect anything in your envelope. No one's really going to notice that 1/4 inch missing. And that way, this is a whole card front instead of kind of having that little extra piece at the bottom. And I'm using white because I really think white makes everything here really pop. Now you could add so much to this card. You could put bling on the wreath. You could add a sentiment across the front, maybe a banner across it, whatever you want. You can stamp something really pretty on the inside. But I have a challenge for you. I would love to see what you do with this. I want to see this in so many different colorways. This is just the color I saw it on Pinterest. Like the picture we saw, this is what it looked like. And that's why I did this pattern for you. But I want to see how you change up the colors. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to make one and share it in 2 places. Well, actually more than that. You can share it on our customer gallery at MaymayMadeIt.com. You can share it in our Facebook group, which is Maymay Made It and So Did I, or just post it on social media and tag Maymay Made It so that I'll get notification and I can see it. I can see this in so many different colorways, and I want to see what you guys do with it, okay? So be sure to do that. Also, be sure to hit subscribe on this channel if you're new here, especially so you can see all the other quilt cards that are coming your way and the other Christmas projects we're doing on the lead up getting ready for Christmas. Hey, thanks so much for being here today. I appreciate you so much. And until next time, bye now.